the voice of Nassau Community College.
90.3 WHPC.
WHPC HD Garden City.
Welcome to From the Press Box right here on 90.3 WHPC, here every Monday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. After the show airs, it becomes a podcast on Spreaker.com. Look under From the Press Box. My name is Rob Leonard. I'm your co-host. Joining me is my brother and co-host also, Tim Leonard. Welcome, brother. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing okay. I don't know where to start, but I saw a great game last night on in the
Which
NHL.
game was that?
Stanley Cup final, not finals.
That was a very good game.
Pittsburgh won.
The entire game was one big overtime.
Yeah, it was. It was really. I actually thought in the third period that the Predators were playing. They had basically a 4-minute power play. It was a little bit of an overlap, and I thought they were not shooting as much as they should have at certain point. They were trying too hard to get that perfect shot.
They weren't shooting as much as Rob Leonard would have shot.
No, when you do too many passes, it's not good because you're not shooting.
Well, the reason that they do all these passes, that I know fans kind of go crazy about it, but the reason they do it is because they're trying to catch not only the opposing defenders, but the opposing goalie. They're trying to catch them a little flat-footed and a little slow on the change of direction. That's why there's so many cross-ice passes during the power play. Because and the faster that you can put those passes together, especially if you can go tape to tape, then you'll get your shot. But if the passes are just regular speed and not as quick and as crisp as you'd like them to be, then chances are they're just going to work the puck back and forth until they get where they want to be.
Yeah, but it gets to the point you have to shoot.
Well, yeah. I mean, eventually, yes, but the point of the power play is you have 2 minutes. You can be patient. You don't have to rush, because if you rush, chances are you're just going to get off a bad shot, and either the goalie's going to cover it up or the defense is going to get it and throw it down the ice.
I'd rather have the goalie, cover it up and then get a face-off.
Well,
I think that might be a little better. You can regroup, and if it's not going to work, because they were just going back and forth.
It depends. It depends. I mean, I think most teams would prefer that if their second power play unit is on the ice and they have a chance to get their the first power play line out there. But I mean, like I said, they're trying to catch somebody flat-footed. They're trying to hope that the goalie or even a defenseman loses an edge, maybe.
Right,
and
I understand.
Can't move as
laterally. It was a great game. I mean,
it's a phenomenal game. Absolutely phenomenal. Once again, Nashville put on a show, and by that I mean the city, not the team. But I mean, how much better can a hockey atmosphere get? And who would have ever expected me to say these words? But how much better can a hockey atmosphere get than Nashville, Tennessee?
They love their hockey.
It's unbelievable.
And you know what I love? It's almost a tradition now. Every time Gary Bettman comes out, people boom.
Oh, they hate Gary Bettman.
Everyone hates Gary Bettman.
I'm not a Gary Bettman fan myself.
But they just boom. They don't care.
Well, I think part of that was because here they are. These fans are very disappointed, obviously, that their Cinderella team had finally lost, and they weren't going to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, you have to remember, Nashville was the 8th seed in the West.
Right. They weren't expected
They certainly
to get to
did
where
not belong in the Stanley Cup final. But here they were. They're not only has their Cinderella story just ended and the season is over, but now here's Gary Bettman coming out on a microphone and singing the praises of the Pittsburgh Penguins and how wonderful they are and what a great season they've had, and let's hear it for them and the Stanley Cup. And these people don't want to hear that.
No, of course not.
These people were throwing stuff on the ice. It was. I mean, as soon as the game was over, I don't even know what they were throwing, but people were throwing all kinds of stuff onto the ice. It was like, okay, we're done here.
Well, the first time I remember him getting booed was in '95 when the Devils won the Stanley Cup.
Yes.
And at that moment, there was a good chance the Devils were moving.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, well, if they're going to move, they're going to move. What am I going to do about it? I'm just the commissioner of the NHL.
Wow.
Maybe it doesn't sound like that, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
But they just booed the hell out of him, and I think it just continued after that.
Well, I mean, most commissioners are not popular people.
Let's face
it. Roger Goodell gets booed,
because
he's a terrible commissioner. but Bettman isn't much better of a commissioner. People kind of like David Stern, especially like later on. David Stern was almost like Steinbrenner, where people started to appreciate that he was actually a pretty good commissioner later on in his tenure, much like Steinbrenner was appreciated as an owner as time went on.
As he became more senile.
Well, yeah, more or less. Nobody's ever liked Bud Selig, I don't think.
No, God, no.
And because he was such a weasel and just, I mean, did nothing positive for the game. But I mean, for the most part, like I said, commissioners tend to be disliked by the general public because the public wants, they want cheap tickets and nobody wants to see athletes making $20-30 million a year. But that's where we are right now, and it's not going to go down anytime soon.
No.
So that's how the fans can vent their displeasure at the fact that they have to pay a couple $100 just to get into an arena or a stadium nowadays.
Yeah, it just doesn't look right. We've talked about the seats behind both the Mets and the Yankees not being filled.
Right.
How can that be?
It just is. They're expensive.
Yeah. I told you, seat fillers.
They are expensive.
Seat fillers would be something cool.
Well.
Like
I said, you can write that letter to ownership.
I was thinking about it actually, but then I was thinking, what happens if I apply for a job one day with the Mets or baseball?
So what?
They would remember me, like, oh, who's that sarcastic guy who says we should have seat fillers?
It's a legitimate question.
It is.
Put it out there. Hal Steinbrenner has some theater experience.
Oh, I forgot. I forgot. It was in Saturday's paper. There was an article about Hank Steinbrenner.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
I missed that
and
one.
He had a quote, and
that's dangerous.
I know, and they purposely did it. They purposely had it in the paper, made sure this quote was there.
They purposely put in a Hank quote?
I think so, yeah.
Was it something outrageous?
It was something just, Hank-like.
So
it was about the Yankees, doing well.
A little bit stupid and a little outrageous.
It was like, instead of saying the word... I forgot what it was. It was like discontent, but it wasn't discontent. I forgot what it was, but it was a.
Let's put it this way: Hank Steinbrenner, he could be a Trump kid. That's where he is. That's why Hal took over and not only took over, had to take over.
I loved the first 3 weeks when Hank was talking to the press every day.
No, you might have as a Met fan. Believe me, as a Yankee fan, I was just shaking my head.
The press was loving it too, man.
The press was loving it because they were getting a steady string of idiotic quotes from a guy who clearly was out of his realm and had no clue about what he was doing. Right. So yeah, the press loved that because it made their jobs easy. Yeah, well, it's like, hey, what stupid thing did Hank say today? Well, here you go.
That could be a little column every day.
It was basically. But yeah, well, good for him that he had something in the paper.
Yeah, so it was nice to see because Hank's just sort of disappeared. So the Pittsburgh won 2-0. The second goal was an open net goal, which, literally went in at the goalie box.
Yeah. Carl Hagelin got that. The former Ranger.
I was like, that's that. How much further can you go? You literally shoot it when you're at the goal.
I mean, he just guided that in. He was going to skate next to the puck and watch it go in, and he just slapped it in, just for emphasis.
Yeah. So,
plus the later it took to score the goal, the more time runs off the clock too. So
yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's only a couple seconds, but why allow it any more time if you don't have to?
And kudos to NBC. Sort of. They showed part of the cup ceremony where each player gets
they showed,
but then they ran out of time, so to speak, and they said, well, go to NBC Sports Network, and literally 1 second later you hear Doc Emmerich saying, okay, we're back. So at least they showed it there, and I think that's important. Although I have to say the skaters, the players didn't really skate around. Like when the Islanders won, they of course it was at home arena. They skated around the arena. They were jumping on each other. It was much more reserved, I thought.
Well, I think part of that also could be because they won it last year.
Yeah.
But they and plus they're on foreign ice.
Right.
So they were just skating over to their fans, raising the cup up, and then going back to the group. And it's like, okay, here you go, your turn.
The topic was brought up. This is I think the first team since the salary cap that has had back-to-back Stanley Cup wins.
That is true.
So that is something to think about. I happen to like dynasties. Well, I like it when it's my team. Right. But I don't mind dynasties the way I know other people don't like them. But I think they help the sport a lot. I
think people like dynasties to a certain extent
because it gives you someone to hate and someone to like if you're like them.
In the NHL, this is different than what it's been in the NBA. In the NBA, the last 3 years, we've had the same two teams in the finals.
Right.
That, to me, gets a little, I don't know if boring is necessarily the right word, because there have been some good games in the finals, but it's the same.
Yeah,
and so now the problem with the NBA is we went into the season this year pretty much knowing that there were maybe 4 teams that could get to the finals. And
the Knicks were one of them, right?
No, the Knicks were not one of them.
I know.
It was Cleveland, it was Boston, it was San Antonio, and Golden State.
Yeah.
And that was it. Nobody else was sniffing the finals. So that is the problem. When you have a team, a league with 30 teams in it, and only 4 of them have a realistic chance to win a championship, that's not a positive thing. But that being said,
it depends how long it continues. If this continues next year the same way, I think I'm not sure what the NBA can actually do about it.
They can't do anything. It's all salary cap. I mean, the issue that we're dealing with now is that the salary cap is expanding by so much in the NBA that, and the Warriors have this thing so perfectly timed that they can just keep signing their own guys.
Right.
So there is a very real possibility that this run for the Warriors could last another 6-7 years.
It's perfect timing. The TV contract kicks in,
right, and that's why the salary cap is going up by like $30 million.
Right.
So now you're in a situation where, all right, Durant signed last year. Steph Curry, I believe, is a free agent after this season. So now you're talking about 2 of your main guys. I don't know when Draymond Green is a free agent.
And
they'll
re-sign.
I mean, there was some talk about the possibility that Klay Thompson might not be able to fit into the cap. But then, I mean, it is possible to replace him. It's not like, don't get me wrong, he's a very good player. And he certainly would be worthy of, if not a max contract, then something close to a max contract. But you can't necessarily keep everybody. But that being said, if you only have to replace one guy and you still have the 3 main guys, it's not that difficult to do. And the Warriors are in a situation now where veteran guys, like talented veteran guys, are going to want to come to play for them, even if they're only getting, say, $5 million or whatever. Whereas, and when I say only $5 million, it's a relative thing because, like, they get only $5 million from the Warriors, whereas they could get $10 or $12 million from another team. But they take, all right, hey, $5 million is all you can give me. Fine, I'm signing up. I want to win a title.
And something to think about. The contract's 8 years, I think. ESPN, we know, already overpaid a ton of money.
Oh yeah.
The question is, since now that ESPN's doing lots of cuts,
massive cuts.
Will the next contract be how much more money?
At some point,
I know it's way down the line, but eventually they have to stop paying because they can't afford it.
Well, I mean, they can. Well, basically, what they have to do is they'll still pay
unless Fox comes in and just does what they do and just throw money around because they don't care.
But the idea there is you can't keep giving them double-digit percentage increases and these massive increases that have been going on for the last 10, at least 10 or 20 years. That's what's propelling the salaries into the stratosphere. You can't keep doing that, especially ESPN, because we know they're hemorrhaging money. I mean, that's a fact. Because all you have to do is look at their staffing situation. They've laid off a ton of people.
Oh, God,
and big name people too. This is the part about the journalism industry and the media industry that people don't understand. If somebody gets laid off, and I've been laid off myself. Very talented people get laid off. It's not just, and people think, oh well, he got fired. He sucks at his job. No, it doesn't work that way. ESPN basically gutted their own football coverage, absolutely gutted it. But those are the people. Sometimes it's a matter of who's making money. Sometimes it's a matter of, well, we have this guy and he's cheaper and we can move him into this spot and that's a way to save money. Or they just regard some people as maybe redundant and instead of 3 guys doing let's say each conference. Well, now we're only going to have one guy do each conference.